Welcome to What's Changed with PeopleSoft Security. This video has been created to provide you with some background information on the changes that have been made within PeopleSoft Security that will be applied during the upgrade to version 9.2. These changes include streamlined security roles and the use of new tools. Please make sure to view this entire video before attending the Security UAT. By doing so, you'll be more prepared to work with some of the changes that are occurring. As you watch this video, you may think of some questions. If so, please make sure to email them to us or write them down and bring them with you. During UAT, we'll address those questions. So now, let's get into the security changes in PeopleSoft. First, we're updating the security request form. You will be able to use it as is, or you can alter it for your institution's particular needs. The form is being changed so that it contains just basic employee information and categories. Instead of multiple checkboxes under each module area, you will now indicate the access needed without having to specify the roles. The security request form is dependent on the various job aids by function, which have also been updated. The ITS-provided job aids are to serve as a guide and are designed to be individualized by the institution. The job aid lists the roles and individual needs for each function. For example, if the person is going to serve as a buyer in the ePro and purchasing modules, you would use the buyer job aid and assign the person those applicable roles, along with any user preferences. If your institution varies in the roles than what is listed in the ITS job aids, then you need to document your own job aid and list the applicable roles. Why? You'll need this level of documentation at audit time. The new security request form and updated job aids will be available during UAT. After that, they will also be available on the Georgia First website. In 8.9, security roles in PeopleSoft were mapped to functional business processes. This means that if a process changed, the security roles also had to change. During the fit gap sessions for this upgrade, security roles were reviewed and changes were recommended. So what did we do? Well, we eliminated about 32 different roles across the modules, and about 17 roles were renamed. As part of this upgrade, we will also be taking advantage of dynamic role assignments in a few areas, starting with expenses for expense approval. Let's take a look at how dynamic role assignments work with expenses. Let's say you have a manager who is responsible for approving expense reports for her department. First, you need to go to the Approver Assignments page and add that manager as an approver for that particular department. In version 8.9, you would have had to go to that manager's user profile and manually add the approval role, or BOR EX approval. Now in 9.2, once you add the manager to the Approver Assignments page, this approval role is automatically assigned to the manager's user profile. The approval role can now be automatically added and deleted via a query process. How dynamic role assignment works is that when a role query is run in the background, the system searches for those user IDs that are defined as approvers on that Approver Assignments page. When it finds someone defined as an approver, the system automatically assigns that role. This role query automatically runs in the background for you. When that manager is terminated and removed from the Approver Assignments page, the role query will again run and remove that approver role from the user so that you do not have to manually remove it. However, please note that in version 9.2, if you go into a user's profile and manually assign the BOR EX approval role, the role will not be automatically deleted upon that user's removal from the Approver Assignments page. When manually added, the role is a static role and not a dynamic one. You will handle the majority of role assignments the same way as you handle them in version 8.9, manually on the user profile. In order to help you determine which roles you need to assign to a user, ITS is updating the long description field for the role to include the list of business processes that each role has access to. We will also be providing you with a spreadsheet or a cheat sheet that lists all ITS delivered roles and business process assignments. Another change in version 9.2 is the expanded use of workflow in almost every module. We are delivering workflow in ePro, purchasing, accounts payable, expenses, general ledger, and commitment control. Therefore, you will need to assign more roles to users to support workflow capabilities. And when a user is terminated, you will need to remove these workflow roles from the user profile to ensure that transactions do not route to a locked account. Just as a reminder, workflow approvals are used for certain transactions started by end users. Workflow routes the transactions through the system to predefined approvers who are assigned a specific workflow level. As the transaction passes through each workflow approval level, the approver is responsible for verifying the information on the transaction and taking the appropriate action. Actions include approving the transaction, denying it, holding the transaction, or pushing it back. In addition, approvers can take action at the header level, the line level, or a combination. In order for the status of the transaction to be approved, then all required approvers must approve it. Denying a transaction sends it back to the end user who submitted it. Putting a transaction on hold gives the approver more time before making a decision and lets others in the workflow approval chain see that it is on hold. If an approver pushes back a transaction, that means he or she is sending it back to the previous approver. Approvers access their transactions via the approver's work list or by going to the approval page for a particular transaction. Approvers are also notified by email of any transactions requiring their action. Workflow administrators have access to all workflow transactions through the Approval Monitor page. Workflow administrators have the same capabilities as the approver, as well as the ability to resubmit or reassign the workflow. This is useful when an approver is changed after the transaction is submitted for approval. At your institution, you can configure the workflow according to your criteria. Each module that uses workflows will have a standard set of delivered approval options that you can select. You can also control escalation notices and reassignment days. So let's take a quick look at what types of workflow is available in 9.2. ePro workflow is not changing from 8.9. It still offers 5 stages of approval: department or project approval, fund code approval, amount approval, NIGP code approval, and buyer approval. Expenses workflow is also not changing from 8.9. It still offers 5 stages of approval: department level 1 and level 2 approvals, project or grant approval, the reviewer level, and AP auditor approval. Accounts payable is taking advantage of workflow in 9.2. It offers 2 stages of approval. The first is asset approval, which depends on the use of an asset account number, profile ID, and cost. The second is budget reference approval, which routes to an approver if the budget reference entered on the voucher distribution line is different than the current fiscal year, or if a PO exists and the budget reference entered on the corresponding voucher distribution line is different than the purchase order distribution line. There will be new security roles associated with the AP workflows. Purchasing workflow is changing from 8.9. There are 3 stages of approval. The first is asset approval, similar to that in accounts payable. The second is budget reference approval, which routes to an approver if the budget reference entered on the PO distribution line is different than the current fiscal year, or if a requisition exists and the budget reference entered on the corresponding purchase order distribution line is different than the requisition distribution line. And the third is buyer approval, which replaces chart field and amount approval steps. If a purchase order is manually entered, it will route to an approver. If a purchase order is sourced from an approved requisition, it will not route to an approver. For General Ledger, journal workflow is changing a bit from 8.9. There is 1 stage of approval as in 8.9, but the system will use the new approval framework in 9.2 to route the transactions. This is designed to eliminate the self-approval issues that currently exist in 8.9. The role remains BOR GL Journal Approve, but BOR GL Admin is new for workflow administrators. In commitment control, budget journal workflow is being used in 9.2. There is one stage of approval, and it will use the new approval framework in 9.2 to route the transactions. The roles are BOR KK Bud Approve and BOR KK Admin. Now, let's talk about multi-campus users. A multi-campus user is a person who has previously had access to PSFIN from employment at another institution. In order to eliminate some modifications relating to multi-campus users, local security admins will be required to take additional action when terminating a user. When a user terminates, you should update that person's user profile by populating the user ID alias field with the username, employee ID number on the General tab. After populating the user ID alias field on the ID tab, you will need to change the ID type from employee to none. This will automatically remove the row for that employee in a cross-reference table. This also leads to the drop of the Save Approver Profile functionality that was used for expenses and ePro approvers that were from multiple institutions. The navigation to the Save Approver functionality is being removed in this upgrade. Not much is changing for those PeopleSoft users who just need to fill out travel and expenses in the self-service portal. The self-registration portion, or Register for My Account, allows these users to create their own user ID and gain access without intervention from the local security admin. If your institution uses cash advances, you will need to add an additional cash advance role to the user profile. However, if no additional access is needed, then you do not need a security request form for the user. When the employee terminates, though, you will still be required to clean up and lock the account, even for these self-service only users. Core users can still self-register. However, you will need to assign the additional roles and rights the user needs. You can also still manually add user accounts under Distributed User Profiles. A couple of reports are going away and are being replaced by queries in version 9.2. The Role User Access Report and the User Access Report will no longer be available. Instead, you can use the PT Security User Page and PT Security Role Pages queries to produce the same results. As you can see, there are not too many changes to the processes you perform as a local security administrator. Of course, the application looks a little different, but how you do things is not changing very much. Up next is the Security UAT session. What do you need to do to prepare for this and for Go Live? For workflow, define your current business process and requirements for approving transactions in each area. Map those to the approval options we're delivering by using the stage templates that we're sending out. Begin cleaning up any old transactions and set internal cutoff dates for transaction entry closer to Go Live. You also want to do the following. Run a list of current user access. Run a list of current user preferences. Run a list of commitment control security by user. Clean up terminated user access. Review the security documentation being sent out, such as role changes, job aids by job function, and fit gap role documents. And bring your current security forms for your active users to UAT. If you have any questions that this video prompted, you can go ahead and email them to us. This way we'll be sure to have an answer ready for you at the start of UAT. This wraps up the short video on what to expect for PeopleSoft security changes in version 9.2. We'll see you at UAT.